Hello and welcome to this tutorial, and in this tutorial we are going to learn something about the while loop. So let's say you have a statement like if you want to print something on the output screen. So what you could do is that you could simply type in system.out.println and you could simply specify the text you want to display. So for example, let's say you want to display hello world. So you could simply save the code, and when we execute this code right here, as you could see, it is displayed hello world. So this is the basic printing of the hello world statement. But let's say if you want to display the same line of code, or if you want to execute the same line of code 5 times, so one thing which you could do is that you could simply copy this line of code right here and you could just paste in 5 times and it would display the hello world 5 times. So if we save the code and if we run it, it is going to display hello world 5 times. So as you could see, we have hello world 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 times. Actually, this is going to look a bit stupid and it is not going to work when we want to execute a certain line of code, let's say 1000 times. So in that case, what we do is that instead of just copying and pasting the same line of code multiple number of times, we use a thing which is called as loop. So a loop is basically used whenever we want to execute the same line of code multiple number of times. So there are many loops, and for the sake of this tutorial we are going to learn the while loop. So a while loop is going to loop through certain line of code depending upon the condition. So in order to create a while loop, we simply type while, then we give parentheses, and in this parentheses we are going to mention a condition, and depending upon that condition it is going to execute a set of statements which is written in between these two curly braces which are present over here. So as we want to execute this line of code multiple number of times, we could simply cut this statement and paste it over here. And the next thing which we need to do is that we need to tell the while loop for how many number of times we want to execute this statement right here. So in order to keep track of the number of times the statement is executed, we are going to use a counter. So we type int counter, and the counter variable is nothing but it is a variable which is going to keep track of how many number of times a particular statement is executed. Now initially, as the statement is not executed at all, we are going to set the counter variable to 0, and this means that a statement has not been executed at all. Now in the condition section of while loop, as we want to execute this statement 5 times, we are going to specify the condition as while counter is less than 5. And what this is going to do is that it is going to check if the counter value is less than 5, and if the counter value is less than 5, it is going to execute this statement right here. So basically what we have done is that we have used a counter variable, then we have used the while loop, and inside the while loop we have written this line of code right here. And whenever this line of code is executed, actually we want to increment the counter by 1. So for the very first time when this statement is executed, we want to increment the counter variable by 1. Then again when the program enters this loop, we want to increment the counter by 1. So now the new counter value becomes 2. So after the execution of this code, as we want to increment the counter value, we type counter plus plus. And what this statement is going to do is that it is going to increment the counter value by 1 every time this loop executes. So what happens is that on the 5th iteration, this counter value is going to be equal to 6, and whenever the while is going to check the condition, it is going to find that this condition is actually false, and it is going to stop execution of this loop. So now once we save the code and when we run it, as you could see, the hello world statement is printed 5 times. So that's it for this tutorial, and I hope you guys understood how to use while loop in order to repeat a certain line of code multiple number of times. So thank you very much for watching this tutorial, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Thank you.